Just as Don Felder's arrival had made a huge difference to the Eagles' sound, so the arrival of Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh was the most unlikely recruit imaginable to the Eagles. I mean, he came from a completely different background. But as they'd proven with Don Felder, even though they got this new guitarist, it still wasn't enough for the Eagles live. They wanted a rockier sound. They wanted to take it someplace else. And that's why they got Joe Walsh in.
He probably made them into a credible live band for the first time. I've never really been convinced by the Eagles as a live group compared to, I don't know, the likes of The Who or the Grateful Dead, the kind of people who can take their material onto the road and suddenly transform it, explode it. I think the Eagles, all they ever really could do on the road was to sound like the records, but a slightly beefier version of them. But with Joe Walsh's guitar, I mean, they didn't have anything to worry about in terms of filling up the sound, an arena with their noise. For the first time in their lives, they could actually go out and know that they could conquer pretty much any audience.
He's a great slide player. He's a great blues guitar player. He's a good singer. And he wears outlandish clothes and has a great sense of humour.
Joe Walsh was somebody who could make fun of himself and make fun of the world and satirise the whole rock star bit, which he did very successfully in his solo work.
Life's been good to me so far. I mean, the lyrics in that are fantastic. You know, I've got a house, friends tell me it's nice. You know, I've never seen it, but, you know, it's just that sort of I'm a rock star, you know, and it's just funny. It's funny that somebody can be cynical yet humorous with the cynicism.
It was quite a brave move on their part and on his to join forces, because he could easily have unbalanced the band and sort of taken it over. Instead of which he added even more of the muscle that Don Felder had brought, and also very idiosyncratic sort of wry kind of humour.
The Eagles weren't the nicest or easiest people to deal with. And Joe was just, again, he was just kind of different from that. You just got the feeling, Joe Walsh, you know, there's rock and roll with Joe Walsh. Life's been good, you know, hey man, let's just... And the Eagles, there was so much infighting and everything else that Joe just brought a nicer vibe in with him as well.
Nobody, I don't think, could have anticipated how well it worked. It transformed them live. They sounded better than ever. They sounded one of the best live acts of the era in terms of the precision of their sound. And his influence on Hotel California was profound and added something to the Eagles that had never been there before. Hotel California, probably their most famous song. It was a big #1 record in the US.
It's one of those songs you've heard so many times that you almost don't hear it anymore. You know, it just sort of goes over your head.
If you set out to create the classic rock song, you come up with Hotel California.
6.5 minutes long, wonderful guitar interplay. Again, Joe Walsh to the forefront, and Felder as well played well on it. And it was a very well constructed rock song.
It's got the bird-sounding guitar riff at the start. It's got lyrics that sound serious and important. It's got lots of hook lines within the verses that people remember. It's got the line about we haven't seen this spirit here since 1969, which is going to make anybody who remembers the 60s go, yes, I know how you feel. Lots of really memorable hooks. And it's got a killer chorus. And then it just keeps building. It always reminds me of Freebird by Leonard Skinner, or, you know, Stairway to Heaven. It's got that kind of quality right down to the synchronized lead guitar solos. It just starts slowly, builds, and just doesn't seem to stop.
The whole concept of the song Hotel California is about, you know, the decline of Tinseltown and its effects upon them. It's also a metaphor for the decline of American values as well. And on another level, it's a comment on the Eagles' own ambitions and careerism and where it's left them at that particular stage.
It was a song talking about the way that the Californian dream had turned into a pretty strange place, which Hollywood, or California in particular, had become. So on the one hand you get people, the Lovins, on the other hand you get axe murderers, you know, all taking drugs and living in communes together. Very strange.
This apparent paradise that actually masked darker, much more decadent and sinister things.
Mirrors on the ceiling, with pink champagne on ice, and she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. And in the master's chambers, they gathered for the feast. They stab it with their stealing knives, but they just can't kill the beast.
There were supposedly satanic elements in the song. It was famously pilloried by various organisations in the States on the far right, who saw hidden messages in it, which of course were completely ludicrous. It had no such thing whatsoever. But it really was, fundamentally, it was a metaphor for the decline of Los Angeles and their place in it, and had a certain mystery and darkness to it, which added a kind of spurious depth to what the Eagles were trying to say, and you know, gave them a more serious quality than they already would have had. But they were always terribly serious and earnest anyway, apart from Joe Walsh, of course, as we've already said.
It was apparently very difficult to record, which usually classics are. They're either recorded as an afterthought and everybody goes home and said, what was that track we did? And it turns out to be a massive hit. Or in the case of Hotel California, they recorded it 3 to 4 times over a period of 3 months before they got it right. It also has, of course, a pseudo-reggae groove, which is quite unusual, and showed that they were beginning to move and listen to different styles of music. And so, yeah, it's a classic song. You know, it's always played at your parties, and you know, I'm sure people have it on their karaoke machines. I certainly would have a bash at it.
Oh my God, you can't believe it's happening again. Your baby's gone and you're all alone, and it looks like the end.
Hotel California is certainly the Eagles' most famous album, and it may be the best album. It depends on your perspective and how purist you are about certain things.
I think Hotel California establishes the Eagles as a monster worldwide band.
One's got to talk about Hotel California, not just as the best Eagles album, but one of the best albums of all time. You can make a big argument for saying that it is. I mean, just the sheer commercial success of it is just phenomenal.
It's one of the biggest selling albums of all time. It was their, you know, Brothers in Arms. It was their Thriller.
Hotel California, on the face of it, is another concept album. But it's not the kind of concept album that we had with Desperado, which is about, you know, the Wild West. Here was a political statement almost. Henley in particular wants to make a serious record about Hollywood.
Rather like Desperado, Hotel California is a kind of concept album. You know, it isn't trying to tell a story in the same way that Desperado was, but it is thematically concerned with Southern California. You know, there were these guys who were all from outside California, who were preoccupied by what it meant to be there in the 70s. And Hotel California, the album, is the sort of crowning statement of that.
This is a real concept album, I think. And the best concept albums are those that don't really have a concept, where it's vague enough that you can have multiple meanings coming from it. And nobody really is too clear about what Hotel California is about. It's not about a single narrative. It's about many different aspects of the California dream and the Eagles' place in it, and that's what makes it work so successfully.